We built Aegis on cheap pizza and a shared dream. In a garage that smelled of damp concrete and ozone, Julian Croft and I weren't just partners. We were brothers, sketching out a future on a dusty whiteboard that would one day be worth billions. He was the voice, I was the code. It was the only division of labor that ever mattered. My face is lit only by a screen of scrolling green text. On a monitor beside it, Julian smiles from the cover of Wired, his tie perfectly knotted, his teeth impossibly white. The headline reads, "The man who built tomorrow, my man, my tomorrow." My fingers, steady as a surgeon's, fly across the keyboard. I type a single, quiet command, a ghost I buried years ago. Initiate ghost. I press enter. The cursor blinks once, then vanishes. A soft whir starts from the server rack in the corner, a predator waking from a long sleep. "Let's begin," I whisper to the empty room. It all ended 3 months ago, on a Tuesday. The day before Aegis was set to go public. I remember the air in the boardroom felt too cold, the leather of the chair sticking to my skin. Across the polished mahogany sat Julian, flanked by a woman from HR I'd never seen before, and 2 lawyers whose suits cost more than my first car. Julian wouldn't meet my eye. He just stared at a single, perfect water ring his glass had left on the table. "Leo," the HR woman began, her voice a practiced, sterile monotone. "We've received a formal complaint. A serious one." I felt a laugh bubble up in my chest, a confused, nervous sound. "A complaint? About what? I haven't even spoken to anyone but my team all week. We've been in lockdown for the IPO. The complaint alleges a pattern of hostile behavior," she continued, reading from a tablet. "Specifically, verbal harassment directed at a junior programmer." My mind went blank. I looked at Julian, a desperate appeal in my eyes. He was my best friend, he knew me. He knew this was impossible. He finally looked up, and his expression was one I'd never seen before. Not anger, not disappointment, it was pity. The kind of pity you give a dog you're about to leave by the side of the road. "Leo, we can't have this," he said, his voice soft, reasonable, devastating. "Not now, the IPO is everything. We have to present a clean, stable front, you understand?" "Julian, this is insane," I said, my own voice a stranger's. "Who is this programmer? Let me talk to them. We can clear this up in 5 minutes. One of the lawyers cleared his throat. "That won't be necessary. The company has decided to accept your resignation, effective immediately." The words didn't land. They just hung in the air, buzzing like broken fluorescent lights. "My resignation? I'm not resigning. This is my company, our company." "It's for the best, Leo," Julian said, standing up, straightening his jacket. He was already moving on. "We've prepared a generous severance package. It's all contingent, of course, on you signing a non-disclosure agreement. A permanent one." It hit me then, a physical blow that knocked the air from my lungs. The complaint was fake. The HR woman, the lawyers, Julian's practiced sorrow, it was all a stage play. He'd built a cage for me out of corporate procedure, and I'd walked right into it. He was cutting me out, erasing me. The day before my life's work paid off. "Why?" I whispered. The sound was swallowed by the thick carpet. Julian walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the handle, and for a second I saw a flicker of the old Julian, the kid from the garage. A flash of guilt. It was gone as quickly as it came. "There can only be one founder, Leo," he said, his back to me. "History doesn't remember committees, it remembers a single, clear voice, and that's my job now, to be the voice." He opened the door and was gone. The next few weeks were a gray, featureless blur. I signed the papers. What choice did I have? They had me. The NDA was a muzzle, a legal guarantee that my story would never be heard. I was a ghost in the history of my own creation. I watched from my cramped apartment as Aegis went public. I saw the stock price soar. I saw Julian on every news channel, on the cover of every magazine, accepting awards for his vision, his architecture, his code. My code. Tonight was the Global Tech Awards. The big one. I shouldn't have been watching, but it was like probing a wound, a morbid need to feel the full extent of the damage. There he was, on stage in a tuxedo, bathed in golden light, accepting the Innovator of the Decade award. "I have to thank my team, of course," Julian said, his voice thick with false humility. The crowd applauded. But in the beginning, it was just a dream, a belief that we could build something that would last, something with a real legacy. Legacy, that word. It snagged on something in my memory, a loose thread in the fog of my depression. Legacy. I remembered a night in the garage years ago. We were exhausted, fueled by coffee and the sheer thrill of creation. We were talking about security, about protecting our code. "What if someone tried to steal it?" I'd asked, leaning back in my rickety chair. "A rival company? A bad partner?" Julian had laughed, spinning a pen on the table. "Then we'd need a ghost in the machine, a secret kill switch, something only you could activate that would burn their whole world down from the inside." He'd leaned forward, his eyes bright with the game of it. "We'll call it the Founder's Flaw, a backdoor only the true founder can use, our legacy insurance." It was a joke. A late-night fantasy, but I'd built it. Drunk on power and possibility, I'd spent a weekend coding a ghost. A series of hidden, recursive scripts buried so deep in Aegis's core architecture that they were invisible to any scan. It was a master key, a weapon, a ghost that could walk through any wall, access any file, control any function of the entire system. I'd named the entry protocol Ghost. Then, as the company grew legitimate and successful, I'd forgotten all about it. A relic of a more paranoid time, until now. The remote slipped from my numb fingers and clattered on the floor. The grief that had been strangling me for months receded, replaced by something else, something cold and sharp and clear. It was the icy calm of a man with nothing left to lose. Julian had talked about a single, clear voice. He was about to hear one. My fingers found the keyboard. The muscle memory was still there, a language my body knew better than my own name. I bypassed my home network, tunneling through a dozen proxy servers, my digital footprint scattering across 4 continents in milliseconds. I found the entry point to the Aegis mainframe, a tiny, forgotten port I'd left open just for this. A digital key for a lock only I knew existed. The screen asked for a password. It wasn't a password, not really. It was a question: who is the soul? A bitter smile touched my lips. Back in the garage, that was Julian's name for me. He was the face, the voice, the ambition. I was the soul, the one who made the whole thing live and breathe. I typed my answer, Leo Vance. Access granted. I was in. The entire Aegis network spread out before me like a map, every server, every workstation, every file. I could see everything: Julian's emails, the board's private communications, the company's real financials, not the polished version they showed the public. He'd stolen my legacy, but he'd left me the keys to his kingdom. He'd forgotten the ghost in his own machine. That was his flaw. My eyes landed on a specific node on the network map. J. Croft Office Main, Julian's personal terminal, his throne room. I could see its status: active. He was probably back from the awards show, pouring himself a celebratory scotch. I took a breath. This wasn't a tantrum. This was surgery, a quiet, precise, and controlled demolition. I wrote a few simple lines of code, a message delivery script, and pointed it at his office display. I didn't need a bomb. All I needed was a whisper. Julian Croft stood before the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, a glass of 25-year-old Macallan in his hand. The city lights glittered below him, a carpet of jewels laid out at his feet. He'd done it. He was the king. He took a slow, satisfying sip, the warmth spreading through his chest. Behind him, the massive, wall-mounted monitor that displayed stock tickers and market data flickered once, then went black. Julian didn't notice at first, but the sudden absence of light in the reflection on the glass made him turn. The screen was no longer black. Against the void, a single line of text was appearing, typed out letter by slow letter in a stark, white, anonymous font. "I know what you did." Julian froze, the glass halfway to his lips. He spun around, his heart slamming against his ribs. The message just hung there in the silent, opulent room. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact. A ghost had just whispered his name. His face, moments ago flushed with triumph, drained of all color. The hunt had begun.